In the period between 1514 and 29, many people talk about England's foreign policy as if it was Thomas Wolsey's foreign policy. Such is his importance, such is his significance in England in the period. So let's just set the context to 1518 to 1520. 1515, Louis XII dies. He's replaced by Francis I. Francis I, like Henry, sees himself as some Renaissance prince. He becomes Henry's great rival. He's 3 years younger and rules a much mightier kingdom. 1516, Ferdinand of Aragon dies. He's replaced by Charles. Become Charles V, King of Spain and Holy Roman Emperor when Maximilian dies. He becomes undoubtedly the most powerful man in Europe. He too is younger than Henry and more powerful than Henry. So, what we see in this period in Wolsey's foreign policy is 1518, the Treaty of London is inaugurated. So the Treaty of London represents this glory through peace period of English foreign policy. What in effect happens is England and France are the first nations that sign this Treaty of London. Within months, it's signed by Spain, it's signed by the papacy, it's signed by 20 leading countries in Europe. And it appeared to bestow quite considerable glory on Henry, the fact that it was signed in London. It was called the Treaty of London. And its aim was to bind these countries to peace with one another. So their promise was non-aggression. Each member state promised non-aggression, and they promised to declare war on any country. Every country would declare war on any country which broke the terms of the treaty. So the publicity surrounding the treaty spoke of the intention to bring an end to warfare between the Christian states of Europe. There is debate surrounding Thomas Wolsey's motives for this. Some argue it was to carry favour with the Pope, and that his long-term ambition, Thomas Wolsey's long-term ambition, was to be Pope. Others argue it was to satisfy his own sort of ego, his own sense of importance, and he desperately wanted to be seen as the sort of peacemaker of Europe. So the Treaty of London is Wolsey's first great achievement. The second great achievement comes 2 years later, where Wolsey once again appears to triumph. And it's the Field of Cloth of Gold. So in June of 1520, Henry leads a huge expedition to France, where he meets his great rival, Francis I, near Calais. So they met with two enormous entourages in a field which is ultimately owned by England, and it gets is name, Field of Cloth of Gold, because of all the pavilions, pageantry, which are on display at the Field of Cloth of Gold. So there were feasts, there were games. It was massively, massively expensive, and ultimately the whole event was empty. England ends up signing a deal with Spain shortly afterwards, but Wolsey saw it as better and cheaper than war. Ultimately, Henry met a month before the Field of Cloth of Gold with Charles. He met with him again afterwards, so the whole thing was empty. It cost about a year's worth of income, and ultimately it was designed to bring Francis and Henry together. The two men met and they didn't like each other. There was the old rumour, the old story went round that they'd engaged in a friendly wrestling match, and it saw Charles throw Henry to the ground, which he didn't particularly take kindly to, as you can imagine with someone with Henry's ego. So, unsurprisingly, the peace between the two did not last. But that is a story for another day.